Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You are hearing.
Welcome back in the new year. I'm pleased to see you all here.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah, happy New Year to everyone. How were your vacations, Dorcas? Did you go somewhere else? Now you're in California, right?
Yes, you can see still almost 5 in the morning.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's very early over there.
Yeah, the vacations were okay. I was in Kenya though. Yes.
Okay, that's good. As long as you were with family. I guess it's...
Yeah. How about you? Are you still in Mexico?
No, I'm already in the Philippines. Actually, I'm still...
Okay. So it's also, how is the time now for you there also? Not good.
Well, right now it's still a good time, 9 p.m. But since I just arrived 2 days ago, I still have a strong jet lag. So I
Sorry
was sleeping
about
like
that.
No, that's fine.
And thanks for accepting to do this on short notice.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Wait
So
a couple of minutes.
I guess we'll give a couple of 2 or 3 minutes for other colleagues to join, although several people are actually still on vacation. But we wanted to start the year off. So yeah, and then we'll start.
Yep. You can see also some people connected like Peter.
Yeah.
Peter, are you there? Peter Koldrak?
Yes, my friend. How are you?
Hey, you're doing good. How were your vacations, your Christmas break?
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. How many pounds did you gain?
Oh, that's too personal. Well, not that much. No, it's good time. I had all my family here, which was fun. So
okay. Good. What about you, Dorcas? Because Christmas break is normally a good time to eat a lot of food.
Yeah, of course. I've eaten a lot of food. Can't you see?
No, I'm just asking, you know.
There is evidence. You don't see evidence.
Most people gain a couple of pounds at least.
Yes, definitely. And we have to work to reduce some of those. Yeah. I think the time for the COP meeting and even the other meetings is not quite working well for our colleagues in Asia. We are still thinking on how to make that a bit better for this year. So hopefully we make some changes this year to accommodate them.
Well, from what I remember, it's only Erie, so I'm not sure, that you want to mess up the schedule for the rest for 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not messing it up, but yeah. Okay, I think I'll just check in and see. I think we have a good quorum and it's time since we only have an hour. So I think we can start and the rest of the colleagues who might be joining us can join us as we move. So welcome back in 2024. I'm happy to see all of us here. And today our program is to hear from Eduardo and his team on the GI Scalable Breeding Analytics platform. We want to see an overview of capabilities, what plans we do have for adoption, and the future development of this platform. The presenters today would be represented by Eduardo. It's made up of a fast-track team of 3 that was selected by the GI management and BRI to fast-track this process from a team of all biometricians and QG specialists across the centers. So the ideas were put together by the whole breeding analytics team. But we wanted a team to fast track the process so that we can have the software ready to be used by the teams as soon as possible, because this is one of the objectives of the ABI, to improve the data and analytics standards for GI. So Eduardo, Ibnu, and Khalid will be presenting today, and what plans we do have with the larger analytics team moving forward.
Yep.
The purpose is, of course, to provide information on this new analytical framework, the outcomes of these presentations, and maybe other future interactive presentations would be that the data and analytics quality standard is improved and is made more robust for GI breeding programs, and that it is possible to compare those analytics standards across programs, those with adequate, because some programs, some crop programs have adequate and some of them have limited analytics support. And that as we move forward, this platform is able to allow harmonized report extractions for different stakeholders as needed from ABI, funders, and breeding managers. So the agenda is housekeeping, what I have just done. And we'll now move on to the presentation from Eduardo, and we'll have some time for discussion. So Eduardo, I stop sharing here and hand over the platform to you.
Yeah.
Dorcas?
Yes.
Hold on. Dorcas, this is Sharifa. I
Hi,
was at
Sharifa.
Teams and there's a bunch of people there. So should we somehow somebody ask them?
Okay, I should.
Yeah.
Let me share the link on Teams so people can join here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Sharifa.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna start sharing. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
You can see.
Good. So I am showing a couple of slides or a PPT presentation. Are you still seeing that one?
Yeah, we can see Eduardo. At least I can see.
Okay, sounds good. Then I'll just start, and if some other people join, hopefully they can catch up. So definitely I'm not gonna take that much time as 35 minutes for a presentation, but I'm happy to take any additional question. We might finish a bit earlier today. This is kind of an update of this project on the breeding analytics framework that is being designed for the CGIAR-NARES community. And I'm presenting on behalf of the CGIAR breeding analytics team, which actually includes quite some people. So just long story short, in summary, what is this about? As Dorcas was mentioning, this is part of the initiative of breeding resources. As you know, it's been some times that they are working to provide shared services in different areas, and one of those is breeding analytics. So some of the Crops to End Hunger funds are being used to develop and maintain this new analytics that is going to be coupled with the different databases that exist and are being used across the CG. The first phase, as I'm going to provide a bit more detail later, is on just providing access and support to the state-of-the-art genetic evaluation, which includes what people call predictive analytics. And of course, later on, it might be expanded to other areas like high throughput phenotyping and agronomics, etc. But for now, you will see that the scope is limited, but still very relevant. So who is part of the initiative on the breeding analytics? Basically, all the centers that have biometrics capacity. That includes SIP, CIMMYT, Alliance or Biodiversity and CIAT, IITA, ICARDA, Africa Rice, and IRI. Actually, last year, I think in Q2, there was a meeting between the Breeding Resources Initiative and all the biometrics units to take off, this project or launch it and start designing the breathing analytics framework. As Dorcas mentioned, there was the intention to fast track the project, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the team members and centers will contribute to this platform. The key wins of this particular initiative is that there will be immediate access to state-of-the-art analytics in terms of generic evaluation and gene discovery, etc., for both the one CGIAR and NARES. We expect that this will actually make a quicker turnaround of decisions. It's going to decrease the dependency on some of the manual time-consuming activities. And especially for the leadership, is going to give access to metrics, summaries, reports that will, in essence, help to make reports for the donors and for other institutions that collaborate with the CG. And we also expect a win for the QG and biometrics community, to kind of free some of the time so they can actually work on new methods and even do better analytics for our customers, which are the readers and other scientists that work across the CG. So I'm going to go over the technical concept, the high-level view of what are we trying to build. As you know, there is multiple databases that exist or that are being used across the CG, like BreathBase, EVS, BMS, and different versions of the BreathBase. Some others for marker data like IWA, and some other for environmental data like NASA Power, etc. So the idea is to connect and extract data from all these databases through an interface that can be, interactive for the regular user through a website. That data is going to be used for being analyzed and expanded through different modules that can, include things like single trial analysis, MET, TPE definition, GWAS, selection indices, etc., etc. So the possibilities are many. The big difference is that this is database agnostic, and basically it can work with any database. Also, the idea is that the data is the central part of the of all this concept. Basically, any module can be applied to this data set, and the only thing that happens to the data set is that it gets expanded with new information. But that really allows multiple people, multiple team members and centers to contribute. Is being used in a common workflow language. We are using the Golem framework, which is coupled with Shiny. Let me move this. How do I hide the floating? Yes. And well, we expect that the results that come out from those modules are also going to be retrieved and are going to be presented to the user through some of the visualization libraries like Plotly, and the data is going to be stored in Amazon S3 containers. The deadlines, as you can see, we are actually quite advanced on this. The proof of concept was already presented on December of last year. The beta testing is starting in 2 weeks, and the official release is in few months. So basically, this presentation or this communication is also to make people aware that that this is coming very soon. Okay. Just in case you want to know a little bit more about the technology that is being used for the breathing analytics platform, is that it has, of course, a developing environment, which is based on our studio, which is running in an AWS instance or Amazon Web Services. The data storage is on AWS S3 buckets. the version control is being used GitHub, so you can find all the code there. The application development, for production scale is using the Shiny Golem framework, and the deployment is going to be through POSIT using a Docker container. This, like I said, is going to enable all the centers and team members to contribute easily, because it's going to have a modular structure that is data-centric. What we're trying to say is that we took a considerable amount of time to just define what is the data structure, what are the format of those tables, what is the information that is more relevant to keep. And basically that data set can pass, through an interface or modules that just expands or enhances that data set. But really, is the, like I said, data-centric, so it doesn't, it's not limited to a particular module, so it's not isolated in these modules like normally many of the softwares are. They create software for making a specific function, and then you get stuck on, having that data set somehow only put in shape for that software, and then also spit it out in a particular shape that might not be compatible with anything else. The idea here is that the data takes the central place, and then the people that want to contribute just have to come up with a function that, expects this input, and then basically their function does something that spits the same data set, and they can create also a small interface on Shiny to basically allow the users or the customers to interact easily with the data. This is a major change on how we're dealing with the data, and that's why it can be database agnostic. This in any way is somehow trying to replace the role of the breeding analytics that some of the database systems possess. I mean, you can see it as some sort of redundancy a little bit, but also this removes some of the constraints that encoding the breeding analytics in the database brings, because when you encode the breeding analytics in a database, one of the issues is that you are constrained to the data that is there. Otherwise, you have to also, start to create the wrappy connections with other databases, and then you end up exactly in this situation, which is instead we are proposing that what we want is to create something flexible, something that can just extract data from any database, and then people can create, small analytical modules that can process the data. And like I said, the data always keeps the same shape. So somehow it can, create connections and make the analytics much easier. Before I jump in to show you a little bit how it looks like, I want to talk about the priorities. I like to, for the ones that know me, I probably that I'm a very structured person, so I like to always, but this is just, of course, a perspective. I like to think that research and development institutions like the ones where we work for, so we do either research and development for understanding the evolutionary forces, or for using that knowledge of the evolutionary forces. If you are doing pure research, you might be looking at mutation stuff like rates, etc. Maybe population structure, niche adaptation, or selection histories like gene discovery, adaptations, genetic gain, selection signature, etc. But I think most of our plant breeding programs are focused on using the knowledge of the evolutionary forces to use it for the agricultural purposes, which is, either, again, mutation, gene flow, or genetic drift, or selection, mostly focused on the selection part, where the main, activity is focused on the phenotypic and genetic evaluation and some prediction and marker-assisted selection. So really the focus for this first phase is on the selection part, either in the understanding and also in the use. So what is going to be released is, at least for this first of the breeding analytics framework, is going to be access to support and submission of jobs for genetic evaluation and prediction, and some initial things for selection history, like gene discovery and adaptation. But of course, as you know, there is plenty of things that can be done when it comes to genetics and evolution. So I'm gonna show you a quick glance at the interface for you to, like I said, be aware of how this looks like. So it's just going to be as I think it was discussed at some point, a cloud-based tool. I'm just trying to move something that probably you cannot see, but is blocking my view. So it's just going to be a cloud-based tool. So, a regular website where you connect, where there is an interface, where you can, be welcome. And there is going to be a data retrieval step where you're going to be able to, extract phenotypic information, genotypic information, pedigree information, and weather information. And of course, the data sources, it can be just a URL or a link, or you can upload your own file, or you can, connect through Rapid to one of the databases that are currently connected, which is EBS, BMS, and BreedBase. Of course, if some of those require an authentication step, you will have to provide those keys. If they are not, you don't have to. The same for the pedigree, the weather, etc. That's the connections that are being built in. And we said that it's database agnostic because the idea is whatever is the data that you actually decided to use, there needs to be a quick step where you have to map certain columns of information. Most of the things are not, necessary, but basically, if you have some information that you have available, then you have to map those columns based on your data set. Then, like I said, the major focus right now is the genetic evaluation, which includes QA for raw data, single trial analysis, QA for model-based data, QA for marker information, the MET or multi-trial analysis that can include also the genomic information, the selection indices, the optimal cross-selection, realized genetic gain, and predicted genetic gain. So that is what is being included for this first release. So we're talking about, a simple interface where you will be, starting on cleaning your data, identifying outliers. And once that data is cleaned, after using certain parameters, you will proceed to do, a single trial analysis for a given QA version that you did, select a couple of parameters that, you will be able to understand a bit more how they look like based on the, some visuals that are included as, in the different tabs. So we try to compress, input tabs and output tabs. So, the input tabs with the purpose of allowing you to understand a bit better, how to decide the parameters, looking at the data or looking at the distribution of the data or looking at how many, units you have for mothers and fathers and designations or materials, and also in outputs, have tables for the predictions themselves, for the metrics in the analysis like heritability, CGIAR-squared, etc. the modeling that happened behind the scenes, and interactive reports that have some summary statistics, some predictions, some plots, and that can always be downloaded. And that exists for, every single or each single of these modules. The idea is that there will always be an information tab, that explains you a little bit about, what are the focus of the module, the parameters. There's going to be input tabs for you to, like I said, take the right decisions. For example, for the MTA, you want to see the connectivity between the different trials. You may want to see some metrics like heritabilities to understand if you want to remove some locations before running the MTA. You might want to see the distribution of the blues before running the MTA. And of course, once you run the MTA, well, for the output, you expect also to see, again, some predictions for the materials, with the standard errors, with reliabilities, some metrics for that particular type of analysis, the modeling things that or modeling steps that happen behind the scenes, and some report at the end of the day, that allow you to check the environmental correlations, the trade correlations, some biplots, the predictions in wide format, and things like that. And like I said, all the modules are ready for the generic evaluation that includes from the raw QA till the realized and predicted genetic gains. So the beta testing is about to start in a few weeks with a couple of breeders from the different centers. And then, based on the input from the breeders, then we will probably improve certain things that breeders might not find intuitive enough. And after their feedback, then in that a small period of improvement, then there will be the official release for the first phase. And on the meantime, the rest of the centers will have their biometricians join a hackathon, so they can also start contributing for the modules that are still missing. As you saw, mutation, migration, selection, drift. I mean, there is still many things to be covered, still to be added, and also improve even some of the current modules in case some of the particular programs or centers prefer more certain algorithms or methods over the others. So that's going to also happen during the next month. Probably I'll stop here because I don't want to bore people just looking at my screen. This is more like an informative session because, as you remember, the COP presentation is also, or the COP community is also focused on making people aware of the services and tools and methods available or to come. This, like I said, it has a different philosophy on how to deal with the data in the analytics. It's part of the initiative on breeding resources, but it will also be expanded to be discussed with the BRAPI community and with other collaborators like Breeding Insight or the different universities in the US to see how can we also work together to make the analytics even better or more accessible to our users. Dorcas, I'll stop here. I don't know if there is any question or feedback or someone who wants to jump in and provide some perspective, thoughts, etc.
Yeah, thanks, Eduardo. I can see Gary has a question in the chat. But before we go into the session, I think I forgot to mention one thing. With the blessings of the BRI leadership, as well as ABI. We're planning a hackathon for all the analytics team. That means the biometrics units across the centers to contribute, as Eduardo has mentioned, to this tool. But before then I think it would be ideal to have the breeders through Accelerate to try out the tool as is and provide feedback that respective biometricians will be able to use to incorporate any improvements that might not be working for the different crops into the tool in the next session of improvements and contributions by the analytics teams. Having said that, let me go to Gary. Gary, please go ahead.
I may have missed this because I came on a little late. How is the model or design specified here?
Maybe let me go just very quick to one of the slides. Gary, maybe just very quick this one. The difference between this software and I guess the previous iterations from other collaborators and centers is that here the data is the central part of the of all the architecture. And the way it works is that the data somehow has certain format, and then that it can be applied through different modules, or different modules can be applied to the data. So somehow the only thing that happens to the data is that it gets expanded or enhanced in particular tables, depending on what did we apply. So if you apply 2 times the STA, well, you have 2 different versions of a single trial analysis, or 2 different versions of the multi-trial analysis. Other than that, the only way that the tool is applied or used is that you first retrieve the data from, like I said, from a URL or from any of the databases that are part of the, the CG system, EBS, VMS, or BreedBase. Once the data set is extracted, like I said, phenotypes, genotypes, pedigree, or weather, then somehow the data is already there. That is part of the architecture that is difficult to explain, but once you downloaded it, it's there, and then you can just move through the modules and the data set is there. And then it's just a matter, of just going through a particular module, and there is some parameters on the left. There's no more other than these parameters, which are reduced because this is for, production. Is not necessarily for people that wants to explore on multiple methods. There is like, okay, if the single trial analysis, we are using let's say, spatial analysis that is the experimental design agnostic, and we are just going to apply, the best model possible, then we will not allow the user to, fine tune all the possible things. We will just ask them, okay, what is the genetic evaluation unit? Is it the designation or germoplasm? Is it the mother, the father, or is you want to fit the tree? What are the traits? And if there is any potential covariable, the rest, we don't expect the user to do it, because that's kind of the point, right? That we want to semi-automate certain aspects of the genetic evaluation.
So you will, the software, or you're deciding based on the description of the data set, for example,
exactly,
whether a factor is fixed or random for the analysis.
Exactly. Yes, and then you just click run. So there is some input information.
That's built in. That's great.
Yes, that's built in. So all the modules, have, you can see that there is a common part, where there is parameters, there is a run button, there is input tabs, so you can investigate the data before you click run. And once you click run, you're gonna get an output. Of course, I click the run button before the presentation to, avoid may you wait to see the results, but that's the way it works.
And there will be documentation available to describe how what decisions have been made regarding modeling, so that if if people want to publish or or people want to query the how the model is developed, they can do that.
Yes, so there is an information tab that is telling you the current status, if the data can be, used. There is details about, the different parameters. There is references about, what are the methods behind the scenes, and what is the software being used in case you also want to, cite for your research.
Just looking at this is amazing progress in short time. So congratulations to the team.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
Yeah, thank you. So the floor is open for discussion now. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. At the moment, I don't see there are any raised hands. Please feel free to ask questions. Yeah, I see one hand. Mengesha, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dorcas, and thank you, Eduardo, for such a nice. But I really had internet issue, so I couldn't really follow it. I just want to know where can we get the software? Like, are you going to make it available online, or sharing the link, or how are we going to access this? It's very important. That's why I'm asking, and thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. So there's going to be a link that is going to be shared with all the, CG people with their own credentials, and they're gonna have somehow access only to their data set, or whatever is inside the network that want to see the exact same data. But as it was mentioned some minutes ago, first, only few breeders that were selected for the beta testing based on the workload. For example, I don't know, Kevin selected one breeder, Prasanna another breeder, and the ITA head of breeding is going to select another breeder, etc., etc. So there's going to be like 12 breeders that will, make the beta testing until the end of February, and then starting March, probably, we'll give 1 or 2 weeks to take that feedback and immediately improve or adopt the suggestions. And then it will be shared with the general community. So we expect that for the beginning of Q2, all the CG and NARES should have access to the first version. And on the meantime, the entire biometrics community is going to start working for, developing the rest of the modules, for the gaps that, still exist with respect to mutation, the gene flow, like, population structure stuff, and pool formation, things like that are not currently enabled. Like I said, the priority was the genetic evaluation or the selection part. Does that make sense, Wendy?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, and for the people who joined late, we'll be sharing a recording of this meeting after the meeting, so you can be able to catch up. Inusa, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you for this presentation. My question is about the accessibility by our partners, NAS partners, who are part of our network. I don't know how it will be. It will also be available for them based on there will be a license for that one, or how it will be.
Yeah.
For them.
No, definitely. They are part of, the main customers. The expectation is that they also have, access at the same time than the CG teams. Of course, we have been hearing multiple times the challenges that the NARES have. So I guess the part where we have to invest right after the release is on the training, really making sure that the NARES, receive some sort of training, that there is some capacity building to make sure that, because sometimes, okay, we assume because the CG breeders are more related to the modern and state-of-the-art stuff that, okay, they just click and they know more or less what's behind the scenes. They understand the concept, so they go for it. But in some cases, some of the NARS partners that have some gaps in certain methodologies or don't know about certain methodologies, they might need some guidance initially. So I guess that's the part where we will need the support from breeding resources to see how to, train the NARS.
Yeah. Eduardo, I think a related question is, what's the plan for access? Is the system free and open source?
Yeah, I mean, the code is open source totally. Everyone can go to GitHub and actually just clone everything. So the idea was to not, create any sort of competition with anyone, but instead see how can we collaborate with other institutions, with other centers, with other people. So yeah, the software is going to be totally free and open source. Of course, breeding resources is going to cover the expenses for, running them, the machinery on the AWS server, which is currently being covered by the initiative under the EBS budget code. So yeah, so it's free and open source. And we expect, that as more people collaborate and create more modules, which, like I said, is pretty straightforward. This will become more and more robust in terms of, all the different analytics.
Thank you. Aladdin, please.
Yeah, I think my question was, I got the answer. There is the same. I was asking about the availability of this application to the NARS, but since I got the answer, I would congratulate Edward and the team for this good product. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Aladdin. Hans, please.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. Eduardo, first of all, thank you very much, and I want to congratulate you and your team for this wonderful work which you have guys done, and it's a tremendous leadership there. Thank you. My question is, have you included any of our NARS partners in the beta testers group which you're going to work with now?
And no, we haven't. Would you consider that that would be something to consider? That, if you think that's a good idea,
I would see value in that because unless we really know their needs a little more specifically and how comfortable they would be using this system. I don't know if it's possible to include, if not too many, at least a couple of those which can represent broadly the NARS group. I don't know if we can identify something worth thinking about.
Yeah, no, sounds good. We are just sending the invitations right now for the beta testing group. So we're still on time to include some more breeders from NARES. I guess I will just drop an email to the breeding leads so they can also suggest maybe 1 or 2 NARES breeders.
Yeah.
I'll take note. Thanks, Hans.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we do have 2 questions in chat. One is from Wende. Is it going to be part of EBS as an analytic tool?
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things that I was mentioning at the beginning. This is in total collaboration with, with EBS, and we expect to also be in collaboration with the BMS and BreedBase. So they can also add modules if they want. Like I said, the idea was to separate the analytical part from the database to avoid the constraint that, somehow if you try to build everything in the database, then, you have to start to create anyways the rapid connections to other database, because there is no database that can store everything, that can store weather information and genotype information. I mean, we have very solid cases for phenotypic and pedigree information, others for marker information, and others for weather information. So instead of trying to, reinvent the wheel and put the analytics on every database, we thought that it was a better idea to just separate it and create the connections to the different databases. So there's still going to be some breeding analytics available in EBS, which basically covers kind of these first two steps, which is the raw QA and the single trial analysis. Those are already available in EBS, and they will still stay there in EBS. But, you know, doing an MTA with a genomic relationship matrix, selection indices, optimal cross-selection, currently is not on, you know, in the scope of EBS. And given that, you know, the focus and the priority for EBS is to make sure that the system works for the, you know, experimental designs, and you know, the seed, the shipping, etc., and all this part of, you know, the core breeding. Of course, they will invest more on that part, and they will, you know, slow down all the breeding analytics, knowing that this will connect, you know, through BRAPI to EBS. What we have to still work with the EBS team and with any potential, you know, database system is to create a connection to bring the data back in case the users want to have the predictions stored in that database. But that is a discussion to have with them. I don't know, we can create quickly the BRAPI connections. It's just a matter of you know, they also checking at the format of the data structure that we manage, so they can retrieve the part that they need and bring it to their system.
Yeah, thank you, Eduardo. So there is another question in the chat from Gary. I guess the cost will be for cloud access and maintenance. Do you have an idea of what it costs to maintain?
I think Eng has come up with some of these numbers. And the idea is that as I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Eng, but I think as there is plans for start charging the centers for the use of database management system, somehow this is going to be covered automatically. But I think Eng is around. Do you want to say something?
Eng?
Or
Yeah.
Yes, Eduardo, that's correct. We do not have every single little thing costed out down to like you want this feature, that feature, but the idea is that if we have enough of the larger programs within the CG or the networks adopt breeding IT and start paying as part of the cost recovery, all the AWS and analytical requirements, all this will be part of it. So yeah, I don't like there. We're not expecting to charge a separate thing to maintain these things on our AWS instances. So yeah.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Yeah, we'll go to Tadesse.
Thanks, Eduardo. My question is the trial stage and the data type required for such analysis. Is it possible to use data set for a single site in augmented design for trials, stage 1 trials, or can it accommodate multi-location, multi-season with replicated trials, and for which agronomic traits this model can be utilized? A bit of clarification on the data type, designs, and such things would be very important. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think this is one of the strengths that we try to build from the very beginning. Like I said, we try to make an experimental design also agnostic two-step approach. As you know, the two-step approach consists on first fitting a single trial analysis, and then the blues and the standard errors are used as input for the multi-trial analysis. What that means is that when you come to the single trial analysis and say, I'm going to analyze these two traits, as you notice, we are not asking for, you know, what is your experimental design? And that is because we're going to go trial by trial, and we're going to fit the best possible model. So if you have an augmented design and you only have the information for, let's say, block or in row and column, we're going to fit row, column, the kernel for the two-dimensional spline between row and column, and the block. So we're going to try to fit all of it to make sure that we try to capture all the possible sources of spatial variation. If you have an incomplete block information and block information, so we will use those sources. So basically the model behind the scenes will be using whatever information is available for that experimental design, because at the end of the day, that's how it works. Independently of what is the experimental design that you have to fit the factors that are there. So if you fit the STA and you only have one trial, well, it will only fit one trial. If you have 30 trials, it will fit 30 trials. So when you move to the multi-trial analysis, if you only have one trial, well, then it will only, take that information and assume that, well, that is your MTA, right? It's just one trial. The results are kind of the same. There's no need to fit another model unless you want to transform them into blobs, then it can, still be fitted. But if there is more than one trial, then it will do a proper MTA. So that is the strength. You don't have to worry about what is the experimental design. It can have completely different experimental designs in the different trials. You can have a data set that has 30 trials and maybe 10 are augmented, 5 are alphas, and maybe another are just a different design. And, it will anyways fit a specific, the best possible model for each trial. So when it comes to for the second step of the two-step analysis or two-stage analysis, then everything is already standardized, right? Because for the input for the MTA is already the blues, when you already removed the spatial noise, so you can fit the blobs in the multi-trial analysis. And in case you have a marker information, it will also use it. Does that, answer the question? I hope I didn't simplify much.
That's very good. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. Gary?
Yeah. So I think the power of this tool is, and the way it needs to be used is within the context of a pipeline.
Yep.
So it seems to have enough flexibility to handle different special analyses. But I think the idea behind developing it was that breeding programs would have a clearly described pipeline that had very specific analysis requirements for various selection steps. So it's very important that those pipelines now be clearly specified. And I presume that breeding teams will need to work with somebody from the quantitative genetics group to implement this analytical process correctly. It's not something that the breeder should expect to do independently every season, with a separate set of a very fluid type of testing strategy, for example, and selection strategy. So is that the idea for how it will be used? You'll sit down with with your quantitative genetics consultant and implement the pipeline. I mean, I think we have to add that process of clearly defining the pipeline into the process of using this software. So, for example, if you're going to be supported by this software, you have to have the use case clearly provided to the GI quantitative genetics team, or if you've got a quantitative geneticist at your center, to make sure that the selection decisions are being made correctly.
Exactly. No, I think initially, all the breeding teams need to, get close to their QG to understand how to really leverage from this tool, because the major challenge is not going to be in the analysis itself, but actually in putting the right data together. Because as it was mentioned, yes, there is a lot of flexibility, and the software will try to do the best possible model. But just think on the multi-trial analysis. If there is no connectivity at all, like for example, you can see maybe in this one that there is only 3 entries that are connected. It means that this particular trial probably should not be included, right? And these are the type of things that you want to initially capture and discuss with your biometrician or quantitative geneticist. And with the time, of course, the breeding teams will be more independent and will be able to run some of these analyses by themselves. But at least, yes, initially, I would suggest that at least that is our experience when we implemented this last year. Of course, with a different tool prior to that, actually this leverages a lot from the learnings on what is the data that we think the breeder needs to see in order to take the right decision on the data to be analyzed, and what to include, what to exclude, what traits to fit, what distributions to use for the different traits, etc., etc. But yeah, I agree. Gary. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Eduardo. Michael, I can see your comment in the chat, congratulating the fast track team. Do you want to say something about the expectations from ABI of linking the breeding targets with the analytics as we are discussing now? Michael, are you still online? Okay, I guess not. So I'll go to, I'll say something about that later on, but I have a question here before I go to Thiago. Danilo is asking if this will be used with other databases, such as cassava base at some point. I think, Eduardo, you mentioned that, but you might want to clarify just a bit.
Yes, actually what Khaled encoded for breed base includes, Musa base, cassava base. When we said breed base, we refer to all the RTB crops that are part of the breed base system. So yeah, it can connect and extract data from cassava base.
Okay. And the next question in the chat is, will this need an AS-REMEL license?
Currently, it doesn't need an AS-REMEL license because it's based on a different software, mostly because we took the hardcore decision, at least for the first phase, to push the Finlay-Wilkinson model for GBAE. The one that uses gradients over environmental covariates or over certain numerical covariates instead of the factor analytic. The only reason to pay an AS-REMEL license is if the GBAE model is going to be using the factor analytic, which is the most powerful model, but is not the only model, right? I mean, and the compound symmetry and the Finlay-Wilkinson model are still pretty powerful models, especially for the selection decision that the breeder takes normally across the CG, which is the across environmental means. It loses a bit of relevance. The factor analytic model, the FA model helps us a lot to understand better the GBAE. But like I said, other models allow us also to understand the GBAE, right? Like I said, the Finlay-Wilkinson and using the AMMEI, etc. So there is kind of workarounds. That is the reason why this does not require an AS-REMEL license. If in the future, let's say currently, for example, in the selection index, we have two approaches, right? The desire-based index and the base index one of our developers wanted to implement. If later on one of the centers decides we really want to use the FA or the factor analytic model in the MTA, and they come up with a button, so there is the two options, then probably that center would have to, assume the cost of any paid software that has to be used for a particular module that they prefer to use. So the possibility is there. There's no problem with that. But currently, for the first version, we decided to don't go for that.
Okay. Yeah. Thiago, you had your hand up.
So thank you, Docus. Eduardo, thank you as well. I think as you are just explaining, you reflect most of the questions that we're having, because actually I was thinking on all the other initiatives on data analysis that we have across Center, how to bring them together. I don't know if you really addressed in your presentation. Sorry, I missed it. And and also how to increase the users, right? So I think the short experience that I have at the CG, we always come up with great ideas as you did, and it's really fantastic how the analysis, gets done like without thinking about, the designs that you have in, and come up with the analysis. But I would like to hear from you like a reflection on how to keep the engagement and the users on such softwares, and also increase the collaborations, right, on creating like new, buttons or sort of analysis, or combining something like that.
No, that's a good question, Thiago. Thanks for the question. Actually, my experience is that as long as you produce something that shows value, the user will keep using it. The thing is that this really covers a gap that the breeders really have to come up with selection decisions quickly, and during the peak seasons they need to do many analyses. And one of the challenges currently is that if you do it manually, you have to do multiple rounds, and you end up doing like 10 rounds, 20 rounds, and you spend most of the time on trying to run something instead of in the interpretation, which is one of the biggest issues. Our experience is that with something like this, that you can run many iterations, but at the end the level of conversation changes, because now you focus on, oh, look, the G value looks like this, what location should be included, look at the traits, which traits should be included. Then you really start to focus on the important parts. So I think the users will quickly discover that it adds really a lot of value and removes a lot of the burden that that you really have to code yourself. Of course, this does not remove the need for people that is doing research to still code something, when they want to do something very specific. But when it comes to operations, it really, I think we have discussed this before. The idea has always been that we want to operate as, as any company, right? That when it comes to this, the genetic evaluation is quick and is, almost automatic. The part of your question that really, is concerns me a little bit is, of course, engaging other people, getting more collaborators. That was also our intention, to keep this, open source and free, and also change the perspective of trying to build the analytics in a given system, and still, instead, put it kind of, floating in the cloud, or let's say in the middle, and instead just developing the connections and totally modular. So any person that wants to contribute, like I said, it only has to write a script that can take the data set, which is the structure. It's always the same structure. There's no difference. It doesn't matter what module you're using. The data structure never changes. It's the central part of the architecture. So as long as you understand the structure, which is just a list of tables, you process it with your function, and you spit the same structure that you took out, that you take up, then you're good to go. You can put a module, and it can do whatever you're interested in. It might be something, I don't know, selection signatures or something related to evolution, and suddenly anyone can contribute. So we're trying to also build that flexibility to make it easy to collaborate. But of course, that is the test that we still have to pass, and talk to our collaborators from the different database systems and from other institutions. Mostly, I think we're going to try to do it through the BRAPIConf, the meeting that happens every year, and see if we can, get to that point where this is not only a CG effort, but also, you know, a bigger community effort.
Yeah, thank you, Eduardo. I realize that we are 4 minutes over time, but I wanted to just give some overall perspective on how we think this fits into all the modernization agenda that we have been talking about. And Eduardo, I might want to share a slide now.
Let me just see how can I don't see why I cannot open.
For those who can wait a few 2 or 3 minutes, that would be wonderful. And then we can close the meeting.
Yeah, sorry, because I'm trying to see where is my...
No worries. Take your time.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where my Zoom ended up. I'm gonna leave it the meeting for a minute. Come back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just to go back to the comments from Gary about pipelines and how we're looking at how all the things we've been discussing are actually linking together on modernizing how we do breeding, our pipeline efficiency and things like that. So we're looking at, of course, the starting point is always the breeding targets. You have the market segment, the target product profiles, you have the breeding pipelines. And this is not an academic exercise that we put in the breeding portal. This has to be linked with our breeding activities in such a way. And in this, the decisions we make in all those need to be captured in the breeding scheme manager to document what for each specific pipeline, what are the crossing, the testing, and the selection decisions that you're making there, so that, and then from there, this needs to be actually linked to the database. The breeding pipelines, the crossing decisions need to be reflected in the data as it's collected and stored in the database. And then this data, when it's being analyzed through the analytical pipeline, is also still linking to the breeding targets. And it's speaking to a given pipeline so that at the end of the day, when stakeholders require metrics to see the breeding program health, to see the breeding program progress and things like that, several metrics can be drawn from each of these platforms and form a report that can indicate to your breeding managers, your funders, and everybody else what is going on for a specific pipeline. And so some metrics will come from the breeding portal, what are the breeding pipelines, some will come from the breeding scheme manager, some will come from the database, and some will come from the breeding analytical pipeline. So I just wanted to review that so that we don't take everything that is happening here as a separate exercise, but that is supposed to support the efforts we are having. And when we talk about the databases, at the moment, the ambition is that we'll all transition into EBS. There are plans going into that way. But at the moment, we're also considering the breed base as well as the BMS that several teams are using. And Eduardo has mentioned for the analytics pipeline, the BRAPI can be used to extract data from those databases. Someone mentioned if EBS will have an analytical framework, and Eduardo mentioned that the single trial analysis will be there. And for the other databases, they still have some analytical modules. Of course, BreedBase has, I don't know much about BMS, but I assume it has to some level. But what we are trying to achieve here is to have a harmonized, more robust data analytical framework that can be able to fit into this objective of linking all these platforms and being able to harmonize the reports that we get for the different crops, for the different programs, and in a way that is usable. And just for the question on AS remedy license, if there is need for analysis that requires factor analytics and things like that, I am pretty sure that the breeding analytics team, which is your biometricians, your QG specialists at the centers, will always have access to AS-REMEL licenses, and they can provide direct support for such analysis. So I want to thank you all for listening, for coming in the, this early in the year. I think there are a lot of comments. Thank you, Eduardo, for generating interesting comments here. And I think that I won't read many of these at the moment because we are a bit over time, so we can let people go do other things. And I would like to end the meeting here. I'll be sending out the recording of the meeting. And Eduardo, will you please share the slides that you shared today so we can share with the team? And thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, night, afternoon, whatever. Stay safe.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Dorcas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Everyone, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and bye.
Bye.